everyone, what's going on? Welcome back to my channel. You guys see that I'm still in the big house. This video is actually the reasons why I have not moved back into my tiny house yet. There are 5 big reasons. We're gonna go through that today. You guys are going to find out exactly what's happening in the near future. Let's get to it. Now, most of you guys know that I just purchased property in West Tennessee. A little bit about the property that I bought. There was a huge mobile home on here and I moved my business out of my tiny house to put in this big house living room. So I remodeled it when I first got in here. I've been working in here ever since. The other half of the mobile home is going to be a guest house in the future, but currently I am living in here and have not moved back into my tiny house yet. The first reason why is because I don't want to use utilities in both places if I'm going to be in one place most of the time. Because I'm in here most of the time, I could also sleep in the bedrooms back there and then come to work into the living room. But if I was living out of the 2 houses, I would have to have the utilities on in that house and the utilities on in this house for me to work, so that the cats could be over there, be comfortable, have the air on or the heat on depending on the weather, and then have me be comfortable in this house. The water bill is about $20 in this house, and the electric bill has been anywhere from $160 to $250 just for this mobile home. So now imagine if I had the utilities running in my tiny house, how much extra that would be just to run electric in 2 different places. When I have some Airbnbs up, I'll start making money, more money will start coming in, and I'll be able to afford to put utilities in both places. So I did have underground utilities ran from the big house to the tiny house, so it is set up to receive electric, water, and the urine going out of the septic, but right now none of that is in use. I do have the refrigerator and freezer on, but that's about it, and I also do have a fan on, the ceiling fan in the tiny house. However, I do not have the air on and I won't put the heat on, because why run the utilities in that extra place when I'm not going to be in there? I have a temperature and humidity reader in my tiny house. I've gone in there at times and it's been 87 to 95 degrees in there with the humidity of maybe 50 to 60. So the humidity is not so bad, but the temperature in there is really high. Number 2 reason why I haven't moved back into the tiny house is because it's just easier to wake up and come to work in the living room rather than being in my tiny house right now, leaving the tiny house and the cats over there, and then coming into this big house to work. Before my tiny house did get here, I had made myself comfortable in this house, purchased a bunch of stuff at the dollar store, brought it in here. The only thing that isn't comfortable is I am still sleeping on a blow-up bed. I do not have a comfortable bed in this house. I will either purchase another bed because this house will become a guest house once I move back into the tiny house. I'm living here now, so why not make it comfortable space for me? I also don't want to move the bedroom out of my tiny house and bring it into here because I do eventually plan on moving back in. When the tiny house did get here, I ended up moving a bunch of belongings from the tiny house to the big house so that I could live more comfortably. Living out of 2 different houses at this point would be kind of crazy to me, so it's just easier to wake up and go to work in my living room. Number 3, I am in the process of remodeling this entire house so that it can be a guest house. First thing I did when I got here was I remodeled the living room so that it could be a business office, and this is where I've been working out of. But it's just easier for me to say when I'm not working, I can stop and go directly into the kitchen or the bathroom or either of the small rooms, start to remodel those. If I was working in the tiny house and had the utilities running and then had to run back and forth, I'd be running back and forth all day just to remodel this house. So I think it's easier living in this house and remodeling it at the same time. Reason number 4, the tiny house right now is actually kind of incomplete. During the transport nightmare, they cracked the sink due to hitting some potholes, so there's a bunch of cracks in the sink. I still have to fix that. I have to fix the bathroom cabinet, which kind of broke open and fell apart because of the transport. I had the handles bungeed together, and during the shifting, it kind of fell apart, so I still need to fix that. The windows are probably still leaking, although I do do have some towels up there just in case when rain comes. If it does start to leak, that could soak that up. But I have noticed that after a couple of the rains that it's not leaking anymore. If it is, that's something that I'll want to fix before I move back in. I don't have a living room in there. My living room used to be my business office in the tiny house, and now it's a bare place. I don't have a living area. I don't have anywhere to sit. I do still have my couch bed storage in there, but I ended up giving away the cushion that was on top of it, and I do plan on taking that couch bed storage out. Until I buy couches to put in there or have couches built in there, it's kind of an incomplete house. I don't feel like my living situation in the tiny house would be as comfortable as it is in here. I do have a small couch that I do sit on in here, and I don't mind sitting at this chair often. The cats are comfortable. I'm kind of in the process of doing all of that, remodeling the tiny house on the inside a little bit, trying to make a better sitting area for myself. That is reason number 4 of why I have not moved back into the tiny house yet. And lastly, reason number 5, this is a surprise to all of you guys, but I will be renting out my tiny house. Yes, Tiny Dreamer will be up on Airbnb after I get the things fixed in there, after I build a little living room, and after I create it to be rented out as an Airbnb. Now, I have been keeping this a secret for a while. I figured to myself, why just let the tiny house sit there and not do anything while I'm living in this house? As I create a living room and fix all the problems in the tiny house and then post it on Airbnb, once that money starts coming in, I could build other Airbnbs in my other land because it's already in the process of being built up. When those tiny houses do go up and I rent those out, that is when I will move back into the tiny house. This is a very temporary thing just because I had never planned on renting out my specific tiny house before. But again, why just have it sit there, nothing be done to it? I am also in the process of having a small deck built on front of the tiny house so that I can rent it out Airbnb. Right now there is a little step stairway that my neighbor is letting me borrow. Thank goodness for that, because I would not have a safe way to walk up to my tiny house if it weren't for him. I am having the handyman come back, and he's going to be building me a 5x6 platform deck with a handrail and railing on my tiny house, and this will be able to be built into a full deck later on in the future. The Airbnb guests will be allowed to bring their golf cart and ride on my paths. They'll be able to walk through the gardens. I will probably even be giving each of the guests a free dozen eggs because I get so many eggs and don't really know what to do with them. They are selling, I am selling farm fresh eggs right now for $3 a dozen, but why not give guests a perk and give them some free eggs? They can also visit with the chickens, just enjoy my property, ask about tiny house living, and enjoy a stay in Tiny Dreamer. Now, I did think about renting my tiny house out monthly, but I figured I don't really want somebody living here per month and every day of my life. Like, they can come in and they can go, but I don't want to have the responsibility of someone else living here monthly. And I would make a lot more if I was to rent it out Airbnb. I can make 5 times the amount if I rent it out daily Airbnb as opposed to renting it out monthly. Now, granted, if I was to rent it out monthly, that person who would have stayed would have cleaned their own bedding, they would have done their own dishes, they would have cleaned their own house. But me renting it out as an Airbnb, I'm going to be responsible for the cleaning and any repairs, and the house will already come furnished, whereas if someone was moving in, it would be an empty house where they would move their own stuff in. With me renting the tiny house out daily as an Airbnb, I would be the one to provide all of the things that that person would need on their travels. I would provide them their bed and the sheeting and the bedding, as well as soap, coffee, creamer, salt, pepper, dishes, cooking dishes. I'd even have to have a microwave or my convection oven in there, a little skillet. But if someone was to move in there monthly, I would clear all of that out of there so that they can move their belongings in there and use those things. I think it's more of a payoff to rent that tiny house out Airbnb rather than monthly. I don't know, we will see how it goes, but I am really excited about this one. there you have it. That is the 5 reasons why I am still in this mobile home and have not moved back into my tiny house yet. The biggest reason being number 5, which is I'm going to be Airbnb-ing the tiny house. People who want to experience staying in a tiny house, or if they need a place to stay while they're traveling through, they'll have this extra spot that they can stay and all the amenities that come with it. If you guys like this video, please give it a big thumbs up. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button below and click the notifications bell so you can receive a notification every time I post a new video, which is every Sunday. Thank you guys so much for watching. I will see you in the next video. But because I am not, don't put that. If you guys like this video and you don't put that, most of you guys know, don't put that. So I chose to take, there was a mobile home on there and don't put that. And maybe y'all can rent it out. So yeah, I said y'all. Now you can tell I'm living in the South.